Ladies and gentlemen, this is Henry. I'm speaking about our nation, Kenya. It's not because I'm the smartest or I know everything, it's just because I have some convictions about this country. But I don't know much. So, listen. Like a chumvi, put some salt. I'll start off by a story about the great country of Britain, the great kingdom of United. It's called United Kingdom actually. Just it's United Kingdom because it has it conquered some other enemies it had and incorporated them in one kingdom. So it's three countries. We can go through the history of that, but that is not the purpose today, where we have Wales and Britain and the rest. So let's not talk about that. That country, Britain, around 1300s, 1400s, they had already gained the benefits of agrarian revolution. So the population was growing and people were growing and industry was growing, and the port of London had become such a business hub in Europe, such that everyone was targeting to go there. Anyone was going there. It formed a high society, it formed a government, it formed laws, it formed a governance system, a governing system. It formed the army, it formed ships and everything. So they invested in themselves, and they had gotten to a place where they were now looking into the future about how they will exist, how their country will proceed and grow into the future and be greater than they were at the time. So as they were thinking about it, of course, this is a society. Of course, there were slums. Of course, there was crime. Of course, there is social iniquity. So they thought about it and they started having desires to build a good country. So one of the desires is managing, one of the biggest desires that we're going to broach today is managing the urbanization of London and UK and Britain and UK as a whole, right? And at the time, as you can recall, there were no cars, so most people are using horses to move around. So one downside of horses is that, well, they don't give out CO2 that is now destroying our, not destroying our environment, it's just changing our climate because it's making things warmer. One disadvantage of horses is that they poop everywhere and you cannot train them not to poop. They're not like dogs or cats. You can tell them poop at a certain corner and you can try to train them, but it won't stick. You can train them how to carry people, but you can't train them how to poop or where to poop. So they had estimated in 100 to 200 years, by the turn of the 1500s or 1600s, London would have already been submerged in the poop of donkeys. So people had already started getting jobs to wipe out the poop from the city, and the city was filled with it. So the river that was next to the city, the ocean, everything was just filthy. It was smelly, it was filthy, and they knew that they're going to submerge. And population was growing at such a high rate, such that slums were becoming a headache to them. So the thinkers of that time, and remember this is like 600 years ago, like 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, the discussion started and gained momentum over time of how to maintain themselves, how to maintain their power, how to maintain their relevance in the society and maintain their country as a whole. So they said, let us do this first by uplifting our people. We uplift our people and build a conscience of our people so that they may be proud to be British. Once they are proud to be British, they'll be responsible over the resources they have, whichever level of resources they have access to. Even if they're the poorest of people, wealthiest of people, they will carry themselves with such an air that will showcase that this is a British, so that every other person in Europe, so that it may be known that every person in Europe approaching someone from Britain will say this is a British man, and this is the English way. So now they went ahead to create that culture. So here in Africa we have ministries of cultures, but I don't see them working. But there, back then, 615 years ago, 6 centuries ago, they had already discovered the power of a culture. So they followed it, and they did it to the letter. They made an English way. So part of their making an English way and an English society in a British society, a British man, a British woman, an English man, an English woman, was to eradicate poverty and slums. So that they had already sent out adventurers already coming out saying there are lands that are far off in the ocean, that there are lands that have black people and that are unoccupied. There are lands far off that is full of culture and religion and, you know, rich lands which were unpolluted by urbanization and high population, which were now Africa and India we came and discovered. So these guys discovered this purpose, this small thing about creating their culture. And once they did that, every person who left Britain to go out there and adventure, conquer, occupy, deal with or work with, invest, would behave in a certain way that is aloof, that was proud. He was known as an Englishman. And there's an English way. You wear a suit a certain way, there's a way the shirt and the coat distance, there's a ring on your finger, there's a perfect straightened tie that should be made, your hair should be a certain way, your beard should be shaved in a certain way, you should be neat, how you speak should be in a certain way, how you argue should be in a certain way. And these ways were not just picked up from the air. These ways were borrowed from other societies, the ancient societies, the society of Greece that had so many thinkers and wise men, the society of the Roman society that had, you know, government people, government men, people in power, people who established a government and took care of their own, people who planned settlements and their governments. They made that. So, in light of this, I've been thinking about our country, Kenya. Our beloved country, Kenya. Our beloved country, Kenya, has never had a moment to design a culture of its own. Yes, we were colonized. Yes, they came and divided us. Yes, they came and named our tribes. Yes, they came and put maps breaking away our tribes and tribesmen and separating families and clans and tribes and communities and kingdoms. And yes, they did all that. Yes. After independence, our leaders, the leaders that were there, decided to keep that to maintain the peace, because the guys who were already in power already were like, every attempt that we've had ever since we had our own self-rule, every attempt that we've had to create a Kenyan culture or a Kenyan consciousness has been destroyed. And every protagonist, every person, any hero that stood up tall enough to try create a culture that is unpopular within that regime, the regime of the day, the powers of the day, was kicked out or killed, was destroyed basically. The story of if all nails are the same level and one stands out, it's hit by a hammer. So all of them should remain. In every generation, there are few people who are gifted with a gift, with the responsibility, let me add, to point out some truths in the society. And whenever those people rise up, because they should, and they will, we are busy beating them down. Every person who is a lead, is a thought leader. Every person who stands up to point out the malice or the mal or the troubles or the breakages in our society, we kick them down. And we have to reflect and see why that is. We had great leaders in our past. We had very, very great leaders in our past. We destroyed them. We ensured that they were dead and down. To start with Baimungi, who was the leader of the Mau Mau after independence, and he had an idea. He said, these guys who fought for you, these guys who sacrificed, they sacrificed for their land. Incorporate them in the army. Fine. You don't want, they are too old. Fine. Then give them a gift. And ensure whatever they fought for lives on. But, some of the police contingent sent by, our first premier got rid of them. Shortly after independence, there was the death of Pio Gamapinto, who was a thought leader. Yes, I know he's of Asian descent, who are now Kenyan citizens, by the way, the 44th tribe, if I remember correctly. Him, Pio Gamapinto, went around the world advising revolutionaries and governments and nascent governments on how to secure themselves the power and establish a government. He had come to Kenya to help us also, and he was. And that was the first political assassination that ever happened in Kenya. 1969, Tom Mboya was killed. He had his faults. He was just a battering ram against Jaramogi by Jomo Kenyatta, and that's a story for another day. But he was a thought leader. He had written a secessional paper, I think number 9, about land distribution and how we should, or why we should, defend the olden ways. The communal lands should go back to them. But wealth wasn't distributed that way. J.M. Karaoke in the 70s tried, and even say this country is going to be 10 millionaires, 10 million poor people. But he was killed. And even today, we don't even accept that we killed him. We don't accept that this guy was a great guy. There's no memorial, a road, building, anything after his name. Did you know that the Mau Mau were declared terrorists in this country of ours? Since the white man until Mwai Kibaki became president, they were illegal. So, the grandfathers, our grandfathers, the ones who fought for independence, that's why we don't know whether they were or were not in the Mau Mau liberation movement, because they had to hide. And if they ever spoke against the government, they were thrown in jail, prison, terrorized. We need to build a consciousness that everywhere we go, someone says that is a Kenyan. That was a dream of our forefathers. That is a dream of any statesman. And that is a plan of every society in this world, that you may go somewhere and behave in a way that sets you apart, that everyone resides in you and respects the fact that you are you. They will look at you and say, that is a Kenyan, that is an African man, that is a strong African man. We can rely on these people. We can trust these people. The Swiss are known for keeping secrets. The Germans are known for precision. The Japanese are also known for perfectionism and respect. The Chinese are known for large-scale production. You want anything made in large scale, you want 1 million pieces of anything, just approach the Chinese. So what are we known for, Kenya? What are we known for? And please, 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 for heaven's sake, do not say we are known for theft or graft or political conmanship. Oh. Keeping that in mind, and let's think and think very well about it. Next time you're told to go out there and andamana and maandamano, think about it. What are you building? What kind of consciousness are you advocating for, or are you struggling towards? What is your soul telling you? What soul, what consciousness, what nationhood are you targeting or building towards or agitating towards? If there is none, then leave it. Because we have issues from here to Timbuktu. We have so many issues in this country of ours, such that it's easier for us to go out there and invest in other countries and not invest in our own. There's some areas in this country you can't invest. There's some industries you can't just invest because there are people who already control there and they run it as if it's their own. And it's a cartel and you cannot come in. You won't get funding, or you won't get some, mpenyo. Mpenyo ni a way through. Either the transport will have an issue, either you'll be harassed by the cops, either you'll be harassed by someone supposed to give you a license. Something will hinder you. It's such a long process. It's such a tedious process to do something in our country because we do not have a consciousness, a pride in ourselves. And we are very, very rich. So think about that. Anyway, I'm Henry, and this is the Patriot 254. I don't know much, but I have to try. Thank you.